Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Carpet, and with me, of course, is Mr. Matt Germain. How are you doing this fine day, Mr. Matt?
I'm living the dream, Mark. Living it in all of its body.
Oh, brother. Well, we've had kind of a good dream going on the last week here for the Rays. That's been a good one. I really like that. I all right. First off, I gotta say, complete shock. Who is this Kevin Cash guy? Because I don't know, dude. I mean, Zach Littel, 117 pitches, and we're talking a 9 innings the whole game. Who are you, Kevin Cash? How'd you let this happen?
I wonder what if they had a meeting before this where all the pitchers ganged up on them and they like got Snyder and Cash in the corner and they're all pointing fingers in their chest going, "This is it. We're throwing a revolt. You must let us pitch later into the game. This is June now. It's June. Let's move on."
I think Littell was a little sore after all that, but I think he appreciated the opportunity. I'm looking here at Adam Berry's Rays Beat newsletter here, and he says Littell had just pitched 9 the day before, throwing a complete game. And I see, no. It was only the 10th complete game in the majors this season, and the first by the Rays since Ryan Yarbrough went the distance at Yankee Stadium on June 3rd, 2021. How rare is it, he says? Consider this. So the 106 complete games in franchise history, only 3 have come in the past 10 seasons. Littell on Saturday. Yeah. Yarbrough in 2021 and Matt Andriese in May of 2016. Good gravy.
What's also interesting, Mark, because you go through this, right? You have the 2 back-to-back over 100 games, 100 pitches in each game, right?
Yep.
So Littell was well over, but I think they've come to realize that Zach has 0 injury history, like major history.
Right.
So they're able to push him a little bit harder, I think, and allow him to be that old proverbial workhorse that, really gives their pen a break now and again, which, it used to be the norm in a rotation that you
Oh,
would
yeah.
have that guy, and now you just don't. So maybe the Rays are seeing the light and they're kind of shifting gears with each pitcher. I'll say that because of this. The next day you saw Shane Baz go through the same kind of thing. And then last night, very efficient start from Drew Rasmussen. He did not get the same long leash that the other 2 got. Allowed 1 hit, 1 mark, and that was it. As soon as he did, they got him out of there with under 80 pitches thrown. So he's on a tight leash.
Well, Matt, he should be too. I mean, the man's amazing to watch. But after what is it, 2, now 3 times of surgery the man's had, and we all want to enjoy watching him, and I'm sure he wants to continue to play the game. So he's somewhat, you want to treat him like a glass piece, just something a menagerie you put up there on the shelf. But he's much more than that. His performance is amazing.
Sure, he would love to hear you describe him that way.
Yeah, sorry, Drew. No, I mean he is treasured. I'll say that. He is treasured, and we want him to stay healthy. And I know he does too, but we enjoy what he gives us. And then this week has been some great pitch. I mean, let's see, Taj, he was like 7 innings the other day and had 10 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Woof.
He's another one that the Rays won't hold back anymore, I don't think. Because again, he has no major injury history, and I think, like I said, you have the 2 months to kind of warm into it, and now they're just going to let the horses run for the most part.
I hope so, but like I said, I always worry about the health of these arms, but my gosh, Matt, to see Taj be able to do that, we lost the game, but it wasn't because of him. It's because the boys scored nothing in that game. And who was it? Was it Hunter Brown they were facing? I think, and who is a phenomenal pitcher. Whether you like the end result of that game or not, you had to love to see the efficiency of pitching of both of those guys, and it was just amazing.
The good thing is the Rays are playing good baseball. Like they're not. I remember last year we would sit here, Mark, and talk about the games, and there'd be so many frustrating running plays and this and that, and there was just a general frustration at this point of the year that they weren't where they were supposed to be. Now, we seem to have this positive shift because they've been gaining momentum as they go. But really, record-wise, they're only 2 wins above where they were at this point last year. So there's not a huge difference. It's just how they got there,
Yeah.
where they had a real struggle at the beginning. Now they're gaining momentum positive. Whereas last year, you still didn't really see the the hope, I guess, was a little harder to see through because of the things that you're talking about when it comes to the pitchers doing so well and showing length and strength, and that'll take you far in baseball.
Okay, I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, Matt, that we would see the fire come out of Taylor Walls this past week like we did? Jeez, Pete. Now, I may have said this before because I thought maybe because there's a little heat because that spot, some people think that's going to be reserved for Ha-Seong Kim, but I would like to talk a little more about Ha-Seong Kim because, here's this guy. We're putting a few bucks together and he's starting out here in AAA Durham, and it's not exactly looking what a lot of people thought.
No, I mean, I'm hearing positive things in terms of his health, but yesterday you know, he had another tough day and then he's now hitting somewhere around 100, which isn't ideal. His OPS is just over 300.
Hmm.
That's not where you want to be. And he only got three at bats and then was pulled for somebody else. So at that point, you're starting to raise question marks. Like, is something barking? Is it just his timing that isn't there? And we've seen that happen before where guys just they're working on certain things and their timing isn't there and they rush a little bit too quickly to AAA. But he definitely seems like he needs more time to get to where he needs to be. So I don't think the Rays are going to rush him back, to be honest. I think Taylor is safe for another couple of weeks.
Well, good.
Hmm.
Good. I mean that they're not going to rush him because let's get him right. Let's make sure that he's in sync. And he's a little bit older too, if I remember correctly. I think he's like 28, 29, and so we'll see, but I hope he gets in sync soon.
Mhm.
And I mean we've seen some changes in the lineup and there's some interesting love watching Lowe and Lowe. They seem to be doing both pretty well, both of those guys. And
Yeah,
geez.
I'm liking the fact that they're using Josh Lowe in the leadoff. Like I'm warming up to that. Like the
Hmm.
amount of power and speed that he offers and the more matured at bats, I guess you could call them, than what Chandler Simpson would be providing. I get it. Like he's got a more threatening bat, I guess. If you're the other team, and tonight they're using Meisner in the 9 hole, which gives them like that intriguing lefty power. All of a sudden, you've got Meisner to Lowe, and then later on Brandon Lau and Jonathan Aranda. So that left-handed power through that phase of the lineup just
Yeah.
started to get really intriguing. The Rays haven't had that in forever, it seems. So the renewed shift towards left-handed bats, you know me, I'm loving it because I think it's something the Rays didn't do enough last year.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that Travis Jankowski was outrighted and he ended up electing for free agency down in AAA, and that's because of the numbers game with Chandler going back down. And they also put Trace Barrera on a what is it called? A development list? I
Hmm.
don't even know what that means, but they had five catchers in AAA. So that's also because of Ben Rortfeld accepting his outright assignment to AAA.
Yeah.
So now they've got, you can argue that they have the best catching depth that they've had in a while. So it's good to know. Those are just a few extra notes from AAA. And Ha-Seong Kim is in the lineup tonight for the Durham Bulls, but he's only DHing.
We'll see how that plays out then. That's good.
Hmm.
No, I've really been happy to see the guys playing as well as they have. It's the offense. Well, that one game, I felt like Hunter Brown was a pretty hard pitcher to have to face, and he seemed to have every one of their numbers. Of course, I guess that's why they put Taylor in. Okay, let me ask you. So let's go back to Taylor for a minute, and the
Yeah.
whole big deal with him walking back up to, and putting his helmet on and patting it down 3 times. Now, conscious, subconscious, I don't know. But when I saw that, first thing I thought of, oh, we're in spring training and somebody's asking for the ABS system or they're in the and I know everybody's, well, he's just adjusting his helmet.
Yeah.
I think the umpire may have overreacted, but you know, Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
I mean, when you're, yeah, I think sometimes you almost have to laugh about it just because of the situation, how it played out. But umpires are going to be touchy. They
Oh yeah.
they they definitely take the things to heart. And it's nice to see Taylor be passionate about things, and he should care and he should be involved, right? I don't mind that. And I think we've seen that before with other guys. I think Yandy Diaz did something like that once where I was like, yo, good for him. Showing some passion, it gets people going. And this is why Canadians fight in hockey, Mark. This is why it happens because you want to get the guys going and everybody gets rah 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 and then boom, you take off like a rocket. So yeah, it's all good. I like to see the team coming together. I think a few road trips too will help them out
Yeah.
because they've been spending so much time at home. But I don't know what's going to happen with Taylor. Like between him, Jose, and Ha-Seong Kim coming back potentially within the next 2, 3 weeks, there's some tough choices to make for sure.
It has to make it very competitive for all three of those guys. I mean, they want that spot. They want to keep that spot, and it's tough. Getting to the show is tough, but staying in the show is even tougher in many cases.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yep. I also want to tip my hat to the Rays lineup because Tyler Mahle was no, easy matchup in this series, and he had never allowed more than 3 earned runs this year. They scored 4 against them and got him out early enough, that they could actually do some damage to the against the pen as well. But he was carrying a 164 ERA when he went into the game against the Rays for this season. That's about as dominant as you can get. So while they were hoping for Jacob deGrom and Nate Eovaldi who's on the IL and other guys to carry the load, Tyron Molly's become their focus basically in that rotation now. And I think we're looking back at it, he only had given up 3 runs once, and he'd given up 2 runs twice. The rest of them were all 1 run or shutouts. So the Rays lineup did well, and I think that comes from that mature approach they have through the lineup and wearing pitchers down over
hmm.
time. And that's really having a good impact. And that's why I like that addition of Matt Dice, and I like the fact that it's tough all the way through. Even though you have some guys with strikeouts like Meisner, they are still forcing pitchers to make a lot of pitches and have tough at bats all the way through. So hopefully that keeps up because like we saw in that Taj Bradley game. The Rays lineup can be feast or famine on occasion, but the more that they are that way, that they can touch up pitchers as high quality as Tyra Mahle, then it gives them that confidence that, yeah, it doesn't matter who we're facing, we're able to produce. So hopefully that keeps up.
And produce they did. I mean, if we look at the numbers of two of those games, we put what 13 up on the board on one and 16 up on the board on the other. And that is exciting as can be to see all of those guys bang, 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 hit after hit, RBI, home runs. Oh my gosh, it has been an exciting week to watch the Rays. Now with the Rangers, I'm looking forward to seeing tonight's game as well. So I think I haven't looked at you. Have you seen what the score is at this point? Now Boz is pitching.
Right now, I think it's 3-0 Rays. They
All
must have
right.
just scored. So, uh, Jonathan Aranda drove in Brandon Lau with a single, and oh, Brandon Lau doubled and scored Josh Lowe, who had doubled right before him. So, a couple of doubles by Lau's Lows, Lau's Lows, Lau's Lows.
I love those loud little boys. Oh gosh.
Good time.
Yeah. No, it's been fun. Oh, I forgot to tell you, there's going to be an event up at the Tampa Baseball Museum in later this month. It's going to be Dave Madigan and Larry Rothschild. So we're talking to two coaches. They got coaches corner, and they're Q&A with folks. It should be really neat. I know Megan, he was manager. I know the last part of his career, I think, with the Rangers. As long as we're talking about that.
Yeah, I
And
remember him from his Mets days. Like I remember when I was a kid and I was just collecting baseball cards, he was
mhm.
one of the cards that I had for the Mets at that time with Darryl Strawberry and all the rest of the guys. And they I always remembered, him from those days. I for some reason I never disliked the Mets. I
Yep.
always appreciated them from that point on, just because of that stretch of time with Dwight Gooden and the rest of the guys. But um, Yeah, he was a good player, and I think it's good to have those kinds of opportunities. So hopefully, a lot of people do attend and ask them questions because you're always learning in baseball, and those guys that have been around for quite a while, they have a lot to share, a lot of
Yeah.
good wisdom.
No doubt about it. I mean, Magadan and then also Rothschild. And a lot of people forget that Larry Rothschild was also, I think, pitching coach with the Yankees.
Hmm.
And he was, what is it? He was there for Jeter and I think maybe Sabathia. And I know some others. I have to dig it all out. He was, I think he's got a World Series ring for that as well, somewhere along the Yankees. Let's see about getting him on here sometime soon, but we'll see. But again,
Sounds
that's
good.
yeah. Again, Dave Magan and Larry Rothschild will both be there, and that's going to be on, let's see, the June 27th between 6 and 8 p.m. Guys, if you go to the Tampa Baseball Museum.org's website, you'll find an events page and you get your tickets there if you like. So, and it's relatively inexpensive. I think it's like $35. So enjoy.
Yep. And just an extra note, the Rays are rockin' rocker.
Oh, now what?
They're up 5-0. So Jake Mangum drove in another one on a single and then he stole second base. I think they're up 5-0 now with only 2 2/3 thrown. So it'll be a good night for the Rays, I think.
So Mangum's, let's see, we brought him back up when Chandler went down, right?
Right. So Jake had gotten injured, so he was just returning him from injury and
You got to.
yeah, it made sense. Like for sure. He had earned it to that point. He's doing really well.
Yeah, I'd say he's proven himself. Plus, let's see what else is going on, brother.
I wanted to talk about Baseball America's new top 100 list. They actually released an updated version. So they'll do that. This one is not a complete rewrite of all the write-ups that they do for each player, but it
Hmm.
was more of a rejigging of who's slotted where based on performances to this point. And there was some interesting ones for the Rays because one player that's looked outstanding. Every time that I watch him, I like him more and more is Theo Gillen. And he's moved up basically to be right alongside of Xavier Isaac. I'm not going to give away the rankings. I get to Baseball America, look up the rankings, and I want to bring attention to it because I do appreciate what Baseball America does. Um, but Theo Gillen is one of those special players that if he stays healthy, his hit tool ability, if it wasn't for the injury risk in the draft, he would have been in the top 10. And the Rays took a chance on him outside the top 10, hoping that he would give him that performance. So far, he's paying dividends because the bat is just so advanced for his age. He's only 19 years old. He's got an OPS well above 900 now. He's showing power, he's showing speed, wicked patience at the plate, very stable approach. Like I think, there's a good chance that by mid-season he ends up being an A plus if they have enough pushing behind him to take his role over in low A and they feel he's ready. But he's the one highlight on that list for the Rays. And I will also note that they've dropped Carson Williams down to, a decent amount of numbers, just because he is struggling so much with the bat that they're waiting for that to pop up again. As soon as it does, he'll skyrocket back up into and the rankings aren't the be all end all. But when you're looking at it from an AL East point of view, I think that Blue Jays don't have anybody before you get through the four Rays that are on the list. So there's still a healthy amount of Rays that are, ranked among the best in the majors, and I expect a few more to come around and pop onto that list. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Basically, was say, I think Yaniel Corret, and we talked about him with Kevin.
Yep.
I think if he returns to health and shows what he can do, there's a very strong chance that he ends up popping up onto that list. And he mentioned the other guy, Cooper Kinney, who talent wise, he should be on that list, but he just hasn't proven it long enough to get the, quote unquote respect that he probably should have. And I think he'll get there if he continues playing really well and stays healthy through the rest of this year. So those two guys by the end of this year might pop up onto the top 100 list as well.
Yeah, I was just kind of taking a quick gander back at the transcript from the show when you went down the top 50 prospects for the Rays. And
Mhm.
Gillen, I think you had right there in the top 10.
Yep.
And Kinney, I can't remember where you had Cooper Kinney, but you had him in there as well.
He's in the top 20 for
Top
sure.
20. Yeah. But it's amazing to hear how these young men are doing. No, you
Mhm.
think you said with Kinney, you were talking about 2026, we might see him
Mhm.
in, I don't know where Durham or actually all the way up to the show by then.
Well, he's sort of like in the same role, like I mentioned to Kevin, where Tanner Murray was playing, right? So he's a first, second, and third base kind of guy.
Hmm.
Can handle the left field more than likely, sort of like what Christopher Morel is doing if he had to. But because of that, if you're imagining, okay, Tanner Murray, is there a possibility he comes up with the Rays if there's an injury of some sort? Absolutely. He's ready. He's ready to take that challenge. It's just a matter of how long would you have to keep him up and blah, 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 blah. So when you say ETA is 2026, it doesn't mean they're going to be a permanent, fixture.
Fixture.
Yeah. It more or less means they'll break into Major League Baseball and they'll get an up and down sort of rhythm going where, depending on how they play and the needs of the team, they could end up sticking around, but at least they're getting their toes in the water and seeing, how cold or warm it is.
Wow. And so Baseball America, they just went ahead and just updated this as a new article out this week.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Everybody remember you can check it out there. Well, if we're looking across now with I think we need to start saying Rays. We need to work for the road to the World Series for the Rays. That's what we need to do. We need maybe is it too soon to start saying what that's going to look like? Do we say okay, the Yankees have the AL East, and we're just going to have to get a wild card, or are we going to be able to say that the Rays could eventually take the AL East?
Yeah, the Yankees don't have the pitching to maintain a full season. So everything depends on what happens between now and the trade deadline and how healthy they are and how much wheeling and dealing they have to do to patch up whatever it is they're going to do. So the Rays and Blue Jays are making it interesting. I think the Red Sox still have time to get back into things if they make some moves. I've heard rumblings of them possibly dangling Jaron Duran, making room for Anthony to come up. But uh, I think the key there is for the Rays don't want to get ahead of themselves either and sell the farm before they actually, are ready to make that long-term leap. But when you're looking at the pitching depth, when you're looking at position player depth, and generally, like not top end. So what I could see is an amalgamation of a few talents to go get that one special piece wherever they actually need it. Knowing the Rays, you could name almost anybody, but there is one team that they've dealt with. I think I've mentioned before the Padres and the Reds for trades with the Rays, but the D-backs are one that's starting to fall steadily, and Corbin Burns just went on IL for a significant
Mm,
period of time. I don't know how they feel about their chances now that that's happened. I don't know if they're the type of franchise that would press any panic buttons and start saving costs. But the Rays have made three-way deals with the D-backs involved twice. They have a good rapport with them. If comes to money, somebody else could absorb the money and they get some players moving around that makes sense for everyone. So they've got, pieces that the Rays could have serious interest in if they want to get involved. Gabriel Moreno is one that comes into mind if they want to get an upgrade at catcher again. There's a lot of players that, would still make the Rays bench better than what it would be otherwise, and then they can keep Carson Williams and the rest of the guys down in the minors without having to pull them. So I don't know. They're one of the teams that I throw out because I started looking through the Athletics, who are really struggling,
mhm.
the Rockies, who are really struggling. Like unless the Rays want to go after Ryan McMahon, I don't really see with the roster makeup being what it is, how that upgrades from Yandy Diaz or Brandon Lau or anything like that. So I just don't see the fit. So I think when you look at the teams, it just seems to make more sense that they would go for somebody off a team like the D-backs that have a lot of high quality players. They've got really deep outfield prospect wise and some intriguing pieces even in the pen and rotation that the Rays might have interest in.
Wow. Wow. I've talked about this before, and I think last week we mentioned about gambling, and it was interesting some things with talking about with Bosey, Mr. Kevin Bose with the Montgomery Biscuits, and talking about how Well, when players are out there, they're aware of some of these things, and will gambling force things like the ABS system to happen sooner because there's looking for accuracy and less troubles. But it's the story with McCullers, Lance McCullers, pitcher for the Astros, who'd been out for a couple of years, came back and had a couple of terrible games. And in the middle of all that, somebody across the ocean who was betting and lost money put death threats out online about McCullers and his family. And I don't know what they're going to do with the person who did that. The person has apologized, but you put a family in fear. He was talking about his 5-year-old daughter. She was asking Daddy, what is this threat all about? It's like a 5-year-old girl. And then come to find out that earlier this year, Liam Hendricks had been through something similar. Another pitcher, and had been threatened. He and his family had been threatened. And MLB, I know it's great to give them 24/7, or the team gets 24/7 security to a family in a situation like that. But I just think the more that we allow gambling in the door, the more we allow this sort of thing to happen. The more that we have announcers or pregame stuff about all the odds and what's going to happen, it's just created a beast. So I'm, you'll hear me chant that from time to time on this show because it's really gotten to be insane the way some people are reacting.
So I have some thoughts on this, and I've kind of, given it a little bit of, uh, you know, more long-term theory when it comes to baseball, because baseball has a long history of guys getting yelled at, of guys having things thrown at them, of guys having, name calling, whatever you want. You stand out in the outfield and the fans will let you have it. And depending on the city you're in, it can get very colorful or it
Hmm.
can get very personal at the same time. But when you think of Lou Gehrig, not really Lou Gehrig, but the people that have come up and broken records, right? So if you're talking about Hank Aaron, you're talking about, the guys that have actually hit more home runs than Babe Ruth. They went to the point where of actually losing their hair and actually having physical, draining energy from them from the
Right.
threat and sometimes the name calling and everything else that went along with it, to the point where it honestly had, life shortening impacts and could have ended their careers at that point if they so chose to just call it quits and say,
Yeah.
you know what, I've had enough. This is too much. And these were the biggest stars of their time. Like this isn't just, the the bench guy who's a role player. These are the stars of the game, and that's how they were treated by the fans. So I think the fans have always felt a sort of entitlement when it comes to baseball, that if they're paying to be in the seats, they're allowed to say whatever it is they want. And baseball has never stopped them from doing it,
Yeah.
ever. They have never spoken up. They have never protected the players. They've let the show go on. The show must go on. And that's how they've treated the players. And I think the next, agreement that the MLBPA comes to with Major League Baseball, the way for those players to address it is to make a demand that there be investigations, actions, and charges laid when this kind of stuff happens. As simple as that.
Yeah.
Charges, not and like complete bans. They did it to that fan that reached for a freaking ball in the outfield for the Yankees game. If you're gonna do it for that, you should do that for a death threat and across all stadiums in Major League Baseball, not one stadium,
Right.
all of them, right? There's things like that that Major League Baseball needs to take a stand on and say, you know what, this is not okay. These are our players. We're going to protect them, and the MLBPA should be right on board with that, forcing that into the next, CBA. I think that's the resolution, and nobody seems to be leaning towards that. I'm not hearing that at all. They're more, I don't want to say like doing the woe is me thing because it's all valid. But if that's happening to in enough occasions, I guarantee you, Mark, we haven't heard even a tenth of what's happening out there. I'm positive there are more of that. Austin Meadows is still not out of baseball because of anxiety issues, which I guarantee are partially related to those kinds of things. So, um, yeah, it's time for us to grow up as fans and to realize
Yeah.
that what we say matters, right? Simple as that.
Thank you, Matt. That's a very good way of pointing that out. I mean, but we talked with some of the women for the USA Women's National Team about bullying young girls. I mean, but the bullying goes much further as well with this. I mean, you talk about Hank Aaron going after Babe's record, and the people who were so angry about somebody, you're going to take Babe's record away, and of course, then the racism layered on top of that. Uh, it's an ugliness that I agree that Major League Baseball needs to address. We've had somebody on here in the past from Major League Baseball Players Association. Maybe we need to get them on again and talk about mental health. I know mental health is something that they talk about all the time, but I would like to hear in this particular instance what they are doing, meaning Major League Baseball, to help these players get through it. And I know you brought up Austin Meadows, and it's like, yeah, any young man coming up, and if they have to contend with that, are we surprised that they're having challenges because of this? No. So, yeah, if MLB cracked down on it, I don't even think the guy who grabbed Mookie's hand when he was trying to catch that ball, I don't think he's banned for life
It
anyway.
was just for 1 or 2 years. I
Yeah.
think something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you grab a freaking player's arm who's catching a ball and try to take the ball out of his glove. And you should never be able to see the inside of a baseball park, major league. Again, I'm sorry. If
Right.
you otherwise, you just allow that kind of behavior to continue and say, "Oh, let's encourage that." Yeah, let's go ahead. But anyway, soapbox. There we go.
Sounds good, Mark. I've said my piece.
Well, I've said my piece. That's it, brother. Okay. Well, I haven't really got any other goodies to share. I know I'm looking forward to see the race continue to come up, and I mean, it's interesting right now. Like I said, looking at the AL East, obviously the Yankees are at the moment they're doing well. Let's see where we got the American League. It's no, yeah, American League Yankees at 627 is their winning percentage. Look down to the Tigers, 645 is the next one after that. But in the East, we've got the Rays, 517, 31 wins, 29 losses. Blue Jays the same. Red Sox dip a little lower, but not much, 30 and 34. Uh, they can get that win average up a little better. But Orioles, geez, my knees, Matt, 23 and 36. That has got to continue to hurt,
Yeah.
but we'll
They're
see.
7-3 over the last 10 games though, so they're starting to pull it up a little bit.
Good.
I think they'll hang around a little bit, and I don't know. It'll depend on how where they are at end June before they start really pressing the panic button. But
Yeah.
they never really invested to be much more than what they are. So it's weird. I will say that the wild card race is going to be very interesting because you have the Royals, Rays, and Blue Jays just outside of the card spot, and you have the Mariners and Guardians taking up the last two spots right now. They're tied, so I think all of those teams are within 1.5 games. And then you have the Rangers, who, assuming that the Rays are able to pull off the win tonight, will be five games out of the wild card spot. So the wins that the Rays are accumulating against the Astros and the Rangers and the Blue Jays recently, they all matter. They're all huge for that playoff race. Even though we're talking in May and June, it definitely has a huge impact with the minimal amount of games they get to impact what those teams actually do in the course of a year. So the Rays are doing a good job. I'm actually very encouraged with where they stand. I'm encouraged with the number of runs that they're able to score, how things are looking, the value that they've been able to draw out of this team is really impressive. I think this might be Kevin Cash's most impressive and growth oriented. We've pointed out some things
Yeah.
today. Like, he's really pushing a lot of buttons that are not always Cash-like. So who knows? It's a very interesting year. And last point I'll make is Evan Longoria's retirement's coming up. So if you can get out there, enjoy it, relish it, look at the videos, remind yourself of what he accomplished with the Rays, and hopefully we'll see him with the team much longer now.
All right, brother. Well, Matt, thanks once again, and thank you all for joining us here at Baseball Biz on Deck. And we're looking forward to talking with you guys again real soon.
Just a reminder, you can find Matt at matgermain.bsky.social. That's at mattgermain.bsky.social or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bsky.social. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on iHeart, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Special thanks to XTakeRUX for the music, Rocking Forward.